Hey everybody, welcome back to the Girl Dad Girls. It's your host, that QT Danny B. We have a ravishing Rachel and we have a Brie Saint Marie. And today we have a special guest. Our
Hi,
sweet friend Penelope has decided to join us. Penelope, tell us about yourself.
I'm a single parent of two children in elementary school. I'm
Oh,
a transgender experienced woman and I'm 45 years old.
how long have you been transitioning?
I started, you know, taking on that mantle, we'll say, at 2017.
Oh wow, okay. Oh, that's awesome. Um, what
Awesome.
what was the trans experience like back then? I know lately it's kind of become in vogue, and I feel like there's a lot more resources out there. Back in 2017, was it as easy to find a community as it is now?
Hell no. um, uh, my experience prior to coming out was as a person that didn't have a word for it, but now would be called non-binary. So I would, pick and choose my moments where I felt more male or felt more female and would dress as such. Like if I were at work, dressing male. If I were out and about with friends, dressing female. And it just kind of became part of who I was. The whole beginning of thinking it would be best for me to come out would be the birth of my two children, knowing that I had to do what's in the best interest of them, which is to better take care of myself. So the best way I could do that is to find a way where I could stop, beating myself up and hating myself. I had to love myself more because I was not in a place where I felt like I was doing a good job of that. And I had to reflect upon the times in my life where I felt my most happy. And it was always when I was presenting as feminine or female. And so I was like, all right, I'll just do this full time. And if it feels right, I'll know right away. And it did feel right. And here we are.
Um, how old were your kids, if you don't mind us asking, when you decided to go full time?
I came out to only one person in 2017, right before my second child was born. So my youngest was born in December of 2017. I came out in October 2017.
Wow,
Smart.
that's
I love that. I love that. I think that's literally all three of us here.
Mhm.
All came out when the kids were, two or younger, just because it was easier for them to understand. I think I'm correct in saying that. It just kind of made the whole process smoother. So I mean, I think that's a great idea that the you having that realization when they were younger just kind of made the process a lot easier.
Yeah, they've never known me as anything else. They have no context for this other life that I've lived. At some point, maybe when they're a little older, I will explain because they do occasionally see some older pictures and they kind of look at it a little weird. Like when they're at my parents' house, they might see an older picture of me and they're just like, that person looks, they say, probably, I see them looking at it and the gears are turning, but they're like, hey, is that you? No, they haven't gotten to that stage yet because the only
Yeah.
people who have pictures of me are my parents
Yeah.
from before.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in a household where your parents took like a barrage of pictures? Like there's just pictures galore?
Nope.
No?
Um, no,
I
not
did.
at all. My family, I'm the stereotypical middle child. I was ignored. Like I might as well have been invisible.
Same.
So
I
so
was the youngest.
yeah, part of that was on me and part of that was on them. So the part that was on me is that for when I was a little kid, my parents just weren't there a lot. They weren't present in my life until I was in about fifth grade. My mother left the family, never to be seen again. She didn't like die, I don't think, but she just like abandoned us. So my father kind of just like had to step up. He had never stepped up prior to that. He just was like, well, someone's got to do it. I guess I'll take the kids. And so that's how I ended up in my father's care. And I um, discovered as soon as I moved in with him to a different part of Massachusetts where I live. We went from one area, very white bread, like rich people. We were living in projects to like slums and living in the projects because that's what my dad could afford on a divorced man's salary.
Yeah.
About 4 months into moving in with my father, we found out we're gonna have a little brother. So I was 11 years old when he
Ooh.
was born, and I wouldn't say that we had like when he was born. My dad was in a stable place financially, I guess a little bit, and my stepmother was also. So they're like, you know, my little brother never knew what it was like to be without his parents. Never knew what it was
Yeah.
like to grow up in abject poverty and having to cook my own meals. He has no idea what that's like. And we're not going to be like assholes and be like, hey, when we were young, boy, did we have it hard. We don't rub his nose in it because he's actually a good kid. My little brother is somewhat decent. um, my stepmother will never call me Penelope. My older brother will never call me Penelope. My father will. My father, he screws up sometimes, but he does his best.
Yeah.
But
So is your dad still with her, I guess? Are they
yeah,
still
my father and my stepmother still live together. They're in like what's called the South Shore of Massachusetts. They
Mhm.
moved there about a year and a half ago. My prior to that, my father found out he had MS, so he had to either go to assisted living or buy like a 55 and up like little cottage, which is what he ended up doing.
Yeah.
So he sold our family house that he bought with credit cards because he was sanitation worker. He had no money, so he's like, I know what I'll do. I'll max out my credit cards and buy us a house. Um,
Back when
here's
you
the
could do that.
back when you could do that. So that's what he did. He maxed out. He like got any credit card that got in the mail. He would max it out and use it towards and built credit so that he could go and buy the house. And the house at the time was $118,000. And he was in so much debt from the credit cards that by the time he sold it for $985,000, you heard that right? By the time he
Wow.
sold it for that much, he got nothing from it. He had just enough to buy the little cottage and pay off his debts. So
Wow.
now he's out of debt, but now he has a mortgage on a new home and he's like almost 70.
Yeah.
Next
Wow.
next
Shit.
year in February he'll be 70. So he
as
yeah, go ahead.
as a banker, that hurts my heart.
Oh,
As
yeah.
a banker, that hurts my heart
No
because
kidding. You know
yowie,
what? Good on him for not defaulting on any of that stuff. That's
Oh, he did.
that
Oh, he did.
okay.
That's how he could sell a house for almost $1 million and have no money.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hear
Yeah,
you.
he defaulted on the hell out of everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I
Um,
get for assuming.
so
Yeah.
you said that your dad will call you Penelope. Does he still refer to you as does he refer to you as your daughter, as his daughter, or
When it suits him.
okay.
When
And
it
I
suits
guess
him.
just
Like if he's
that.
like if it's just me and him and like let's say he's like, hey, let's go to the store or something, like he will parade me, like he'll refer to me as daughter and call me Penelope and be like, oh, this is my daughter and it's like super sweet. But if it's like the rest of if it's like my stepmom's there, it's always he him and it's always the dead
wow.
name
And
Oh.
and
because
that's just
she
Oh,
because
like
she influences his thought pattern by only
Mm.
referring to me
wow.
that, and he's slipping. So if you
Yeah.
say it enough, he'll start to say it too. And then as
Yeah.
soon as he's out of earshot, it's right back to Penelope again. So like I said, he's at least trying. It's just the
Yeah.
people around him are kind of like, his thought process is he beat himself up with work. I respect my dad. He worked a bunch of jobs to give us a home, and I respect that. And I respect even more that he's happy enough to call me Penelope. Like I said, when it's him, or if he's like of clear mind and thought, no one's around him to kind of influence how he thinks, then he'll consistently call me Penelope. But my stepmother outright refuses to, told me to my face multiple times. And my older brother said, I will never, he said, his words were, I will never remember that. So I'm just not going to do it.
What? Like, I mean, I my dad and his wife, his new wife, well, they'll call me he him. They call me Danny because I guess that's masculine enough, but they don't do it out of spite. They don't call me he him out of spite. They say my daughter still calls me daddy, and so they think it's weird to say give this to her, give this to your daddy, give this to her. So they
Yeah.
say give this to him. They don't mean to, but
Yeah, it is.
that's
It's understandable, like the kind of like flip flopping of the like
yeah.
dad, yeah, girl.
But
Trust me, I get that a lot when I drop the kids off at school.
are are they? Is your stepmom like supportive otherwise, or she's just like I cannot stand what you're doing. I want you to like I don't support anything that you do. Do they still treat you nicely at all?
Other than dead naming me and using the wrong genders, my stepmom is a total sweetheart.
Really? That is so weird.
And
I
my
wish.
kids absolutely adore her, and she's like a really good grandmother to the kids. She just like
Wow.
completely showers them with love and gifts and as
Yeah.
much as she can. Total sweetheart to the kids. She's actually coming here on Saturday, and she's going to spend the weekend with us. So like I have no problem. The way I see it is, I've lived most of my life with very little hate in my bones. I grew up being being punished for being the queer kid, for being the flag without the L,
Yeah.
that word.
I gotcha.
Um, being called that constantly, being called the R word. That, you know what R word that is, because I was different, because I was weird, because I was
Yeah.
freaky, because I was like the long haired art kid that like skinny, like hunched over, no friends. Uh, the
Yeah.
few friends I had were also kind of like gangly weirdos, and like we would
Yeah.
just get pummeled. And just grew up in a rough neighborhood. So raising my kids are like, I'm the fun parent. Like they climb all over me because like I'm more physically fit than I was then, and I'm like, I didn't have like a great childhood, and I want to make sure that my kids have like, I have no money and I'm totally broke, but I try to give them as much fun as I
So
can
important. Yeah.
while they're young, because as they get older, they're going to want to do that less and less. So while they're at their ages now, which are, my youngest will be turning 6 in December. Tomorrow will be exactly 1 month that he'll be 6.
Oh wow.
And my oldest is 7, almost 7.5.
Wow.
So they're very close in age, and they're all about like playgrounds, and like I take them to the arcade, and probably going to take them bowling tomorrow. I don't have any money to take them there, but I'm going to try to take them to give them
Yeah.
as much as I can with what little I have, so that they can have a good life that I didn't have.
Yeah. I mean, it's so
Um,
important. I know, like my dad used to always quote that Cat Stevens song, "The Cat's in the Cradle," where it's like I don't know if you all know this song, but it's
I know the
essentially
song, yeah.
yeah, it's like for those who don't know, it's essentially about a son who's trying to get his dad's attention. His dad's always busy, and then at the end of it, the son starts coming back for like from college, and then all this stuff, and just wants to borrow the car and wants to like do stuff without his dad, and his dad's like, I can't believe I didn't spend time with you, and regrets it. And my dad would always quote that didn't want to be like that dad in that song, but he was always out um working
Yeah.
or hanging out, drinking and
That
everything.
is
But
something that, like, it's a sacrifice I had to make when I uh not long after my youngest was born, things were falling apart between my ex and myself. Um, you know, I didn't always do great stuff. It and my ex also has their role in that too. But we're a lot more amicable now than we were then. The writing was on the wall pretty early on, and it just progressively got worse because now that I was coming out and being my own person, I started speaking up more, and that's not I was a different person. So suddenly now, like, suddenly I have a voice.
yeah,
Suddenly I have opinions. And I
but
used to just always take a backseat because I'm used to being bossed around by bullies and bossed around by my parents. And finally I'm just like, wait, no. And unfortunately my ex had to be at the receiving end of me saying, like, no, like, I've been helping you raise the kids this whole time. And it just wasn't going to work anymore. So we went our separate ways in 2019, and I've been on my own since then, raising them 50-50. I get split
yeah.
my ex. So my kids will be here tomorrow through Sunday. I couldn't take them today because I had a job interview.
Oh, nice. Oh, wow.
Otherwise, I would not have been able to do this call.
Yeah.
They would be here right now. So they're here Wednesday through Sunday when I do have them every other week.
Okay.
And then I have them every Wednesday no matter what. So it's every Wednesday and then every other Wednesday through Sunday.
So
Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
so I'm gonna kind of take this a little bit of a right angle here. So you mentioned job interview. Like what kind of like professions are you in? Like what's your niche?
In 2018, I graduated from going back to college as an elementary school teacher.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
However, when I graduated, I was already out as trans. In 2018, I decided in my second semester, because I only needed 2 semesters to graduate, I'm not going to only dress as a woman at home or when I'm out and about with my
Yeah.
partner at the time. I'm going to just do full time everywhere,
Oh, yeah.
not just like part of the time here, part of the time there, just to, like, so it felt safe. I was like, well, it's been almost a year. I'm going back to school in September. October will be exactly a year. I'm done with just like, like 90% of my stuff is now women's clothes. There's no going
Yep.
back.
Yeah.
I've already, by that point, I'd already spoken to a doctor about getting medication. I didn't start taking it until 2019, but I was like, you know what? I'm going back to school as Penelope. I can't do this anymore. And fortunately, I went to a predominantly, it's not exclusively, but predominantly women went to this college, Leslie University. So there was no problem. The teachers were totally cool with it, and all the students were just like, "Nice to meet you, Penelope," and there's
Yeah.
like it was like no big deal. So I graduated that year, and then we moved to like my ex bought a house where I currently live in the city I currently live in. I'm being vague on purpose so that the
Of
people who
course.
would seek to harm me can't find me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Probably a good
Yeah,
idea.
there are people out there that would seek to harm us, and I'm trying to keep it as vague as possible. Um, Anyways, so we moved here, and I'm like, all right, I got my resume, I just finished all of my studies, I got my tests done. Time to get out there. Rejection, 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 rejection. And after about 2 or 3 months of being rejected, because the school season, we moved here in May, school season is coming up in September. I'm like, I got to really push it so that I can get a job by September in the elementary school system somewhere, anywhere in the centralized area where I live. Kept getting rejections, and I'm like, I don't understand it. I got honors. I never got honors in my whole life, but I got honors, and I passed my tests with really good scores. Like I got a 3.9 GPA, like
Damn,
really,
get it.
like I crushed it.
Awesome.
Why am I not getting hired? And then I went on an interview, and a principal pulled me aside and said, I can tell you're talking very fast, that you must be frustrated. You've probably been on a lot of interviews, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a little nervous, but like I keep getting turned away and I'm not sure why. And he's like, I'm going to talk to you off the record here. The reason you're not getting hired is because we know you're transgender, and we're going to have to explain this to parents, and we don't want to have to do that.
Wow.
So if
That's
you're getting
messed
turned
up.
away, that's probably why. And I was like, I thought that, but I was actually very appreciated that he pulled me
Yeah.
aside and confirmed it, even though it was a really shitty thing for him to say. I actually respect him more for having just being like, you know what? Stop. Because you've been on
Yeah.
so many interviews, and this is why they're not hiring you. They see that, as I say on my chats, the floating T, the invisible letter T that
Yeah.
only shows to straight people, is floating above my head. And as long as people only ever see that, they're not going to see my better qualities. They're always going to like think trans first and then person later.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, trying to break down a wall with just a brick wall with just your hands. It's like after a while, the person that comes over to tell you that you're not gonna be able to do it is, the worst person ever. But eventually it's just like, okay, well, thank you for
Yeah, I
stopping,
ended
but
up
what a
taking my
terrible
the
thing.
job. Yeah, the job I had before that. I am a master bicycle technician. So
Oh,
I was like, well,
wow.
let's see where I can apply that trade, because I'm not getting hired as a teacher. I might as well just see what I can do with this, because it is something I know how to do very well. And I got hired right away.
You do you
That's
think
awesome.
if like I know you said elementary school, do you think if you were to go to like middle school, high school, or college even, like would
No, when
they
you get a
eventually?
degree in teaching, it has to be very specific.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Um,
Yeah. So I
yeah,
can only
wow.
do elementary schools.
Wow. That's just so
But
crummy.
I had an interview on Monday that was very good, and he said he would call me tomorrow and let me know how it's going. So I won't be a full time like full teacher. I have to retake my tests because it's been too long since I went back into teaching. Uh, so I'll have to start as like an assistant, just kind of like helping out until I can get my tests
Yeah.
done again, and hopefully by next year, having worked in the system, if they take me on, I'll
Yeah.
be able to pass my MTELs, they're called. Uh, Once I pass that, then I can be a full time teacher probably by September of next year, and finally actually have a living wage.
Yeah. Um, when you and don't feel like you need to answer this, but when you go on these interviews, you disclose that you're trans? Because I mean, honestly, you pass perfectly from my eyes.
Not unless if they ask, or if they drop hints, then yeah, I'm gonna tell them. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I am on LinkedIn, I have a trans flag. On
Oh,
on
okay.
Facebook, it's like trans, that everything I talk about is either like a silly joke or like, something relating to my transness. And if they go on Instagram, holy shit, they're gonna get like the
Yeah.
full Penelope experience. So if they really looked into it and spent very little time, it's very obvious that I am trans.
Yeah.
I'm not hiding that. There is there is this weird like balance that I have in my life where like I sure as hell know I'm trans. My kids know I'm trans. Everybody that is my friends and around me in my life knows that I'm trans. However, if I'm at the playground or something, that's another. I'll quote myself again. It sounds so cocky, but another thing is I also have the floating invisible letter P, which is begins with P and ends with assing. Hate that word. So I can't see it, but like everyone else can see that, because I'm walking around and everyone's like, oh, look at that mom and her kids, and not thinking as anything about it. So when on my car or on my person, on my purse, on anything I'm carrying around, I don't have a trans pad. I don't
Yeah.
like have like a little pin here. I don't have a patch. I don't have like a sign. I'm not waving my transness around because the dangerous nature of the world. I don't want my kids to get hurt. I don't want them getting hurt. So I don't want to paint a target on myself because my kids might be innocent victims of said target. And it would be, I would not be able to live with myself if I was just like, oh, let's put a cute little magnet that says like trans and proud on my car. And then next thing you know, I go to my car and it's on fire.
Yeah. I mean, I
Because
was
that
in,
shit
yeah.
does happen.
Yeah. There was a group of kids, I maybe about 5 or 6 months ago, I had a trans flag in my car, and one of the neighbors at the girl I was seeing, her house, the neighbor came over and knocked on the door and was like, "Hey, you may want to move your car." They saw these kids that were just going up and down in the neighborhood, and they were canvassing it. She overheard them talking about vandalizing my car, even though it had a fucking car seat in the back of it. And it's like they were
Well,
like,
they're
"You should
not
move your
looking for
car."
that.
And
They're looking for
I
trouble.
went out and grabbed my machetes and my knife and was like, let's see this little 12-year-old come vandalize my car. I will cut their goddamn head off. Like
Yeah.
that, like, yeah, you want to see a trans woman in a fit of rage come after me as a hate crime. And yeah. But yeah, no, yeah, but exactly. You put a big target on your back, and when I did that, it was, yeah. So it's good on you that, like, I mean, in person, that you don't, like, throw it in people's faces, I guess, as some people would say.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
like if I'm sitting down, let's say like I'm having a picnic with my kids, and there's another family nearby, and this is like relates to real life. Um, let's change it though. Let's say I'm at the playground, which is a common place I go with the kids.
mhm.
I'm at the playground and I'm sitting there and I'm like just keeping an eye on my kids. And then let's say my youngest falls and skins his knee and he's got a little boo boo there. And he comes running over to me. He's not going to say mom
Yeah,
in front of a sea of people because that's not what he calls me. He calls me dad. So he's running at me with skin knee, me looking like this. Dad, 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 ow, I hurt my knee, dad. And there's like a sea of grown-ups, a sea of children, all going like running towards a
yeah,
woman, but he's saying, dad, what's going on here? Is there a man standing behind that woman? That's how they're looking.
yeah, yeah,
This happens a lot. This happened at school last week. I went to pick up
yeah.
my youngest. He had an early day, and I was able to get there early enough to pick him up. Usually, my ex will get him for on the early days, and I'll just come and get him later. But now they don't have a job.
Yeah.
I got laid off. I went and picked him up, and I surprised him, and he was very happy to see me, which is very sweet. So he's waving, and I could see behind the window. He's saying,
Yeah.
waving to me, saying, "Dad, Dad," and all the kids are just like, it's all. I'm in a sea of women waiting for
Yeah.
the kids. There's like one dad way off in the distance. I'm the only other dad there. So he's waving, and the kids are just like, and he comes out, and this woman, oh, you must be so happy to see. You seem like you're so happy to see your mom. And he gives me a big hug and he says, "This is my girl, Dad."
Oh, that's
And so
cute.
two and two, finally the woman looks at me and goes like, "Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
That makes sense why he keeps saying dad and looking at you.
Yeah.
Got it.
Are
Got
you
it."
are you planning on change, like, I mean, my daughter's 2, and so I'm not going to explain the intricacies of gender dysphoria to a 2-year-old. Are you planning on ever having that switch, or like, do you think just dealing with the gaze of being called dad from at the playground, is that okay?
It's something that like is I toss and turn over for sure. I think it's a little too late. Um, I've asked them like they've slipped and called me mom a couple times. And I'm like, it's okay if you want to call me mom. I would like you to call me mommy or
Yeah.
mom if you'd like. And they're like, no, you're our girl, dad.
Do
They
you?
they don't just say dad when it's in that context. They always make a point of saying you're our girl, dad. So like they've just kind of like that's what they plan on calling me, and it's been a challenge to get that switch. So I was like, what if you just called me Penelope instead of dad? And they're like, nope, you're girl, dad. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm stuck with this. I would highly
Love it.
recommend while your child's learning to speak, get on that mommy shit now. If that's something you want to do.
Yeah.
Well,
Get on
I
it now.
I absolutely wish I could, but my ex, who happens to live 20 feet that way now, she thinks that mom or mother is reserved for her only. So I've said this before, but my daughter calls me either B or BB.
That's fine. That's
That's
perfect.
Yeah,
cute though.
I know. I pick her up at daycare. She just goes, B.
um,
So I don't know if I'd call that lucky, but she's going to be 2 in December, and I definitely we caught it early enough. So I definitely agree with her that she's earned the mother title. I don't get that unfortunately, but
Yeah. I
BB,
didn't never
works for
claim
me.
I never laid claim to it. Um it's just something that like was kind of like a placeholder, and then it just became a thing. It was always a placeholder at first, and I'm like, well, they're learning how to speak, and I could have them just call me Penelope now. And I tried that, and as soon as they learned how to talk, they're like, Dad? Like, no, you can call me mommy or Penelope. Dad? It's
well,
like,
so
okay, I'm not gonna win this war.
you mentioned that excuse me, you mentioned that sometimes they slip up and they call you mom. Like, I mean, that sort of keyed in with me because every now and then my daughter will be like, she'll come running at me and she'll say mom, and I'm only wondering if it's because she sees sees somebody that looks feminine and is like, that's mom, because she'll say mama, mama, and then she catches herself and she's just, oh, daddy. But do you think your kids were slipping up and calling you mom out of just sort of seeing you and associating, I guess, quote unquote, gender roles and versus the
No, I
names?
don't think they're not at a level of learning what even gender roles are really. I mean, they do and they don't. It's hard to put a lid on that really, because like they have queer friends. Um, they have friend Ben who's non-binary. So they're one of my kids' friends, and they hang out with Ben, and they use they them for Ben.
Oh, wow.
My ex is they them, and they refer to my ex as they them or mom.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I'm she, her, and dad.
Yeah.
So they're aware of what my pronouns are, but I'm still dad. That's why they're always emphasizing the girl dad part,
Yeah.
because they want everybody to know that, like, if anybody's even remotely questioning it, that they're like ready to defend the fact that that's my girl dad.
Yeah. I feel like
Because there are kids at the school line that are just like, why is her voice so deep? Like, why is she so tall? So I'm starting to get those questions. Like,
uh
why is your mom so tall? And then my son will say, that's my girl dad.
yeah.
He's always interjecting before I can even say anything. He'll say, oh, that's because it's my girl dad. My girl dad's really tall. My dad's a girl, but is very tall and has deep voice. Some
Yeah.
girls have deep voices. He knows what to say.
Yeah.
And my
Absolutely.
other my older child does as well. That's just like, I was
It's so
sitting
beautiful.
at the front of
Yeah.
the school the other day, and one of my oldest, he's in ABA program. Uh, so he and I were sitting waiting for his ABA, like liaison, the person that has to walk him to class so he doesn't wander off. Uh, she comes out, and she's never addressed me like other than like, all right, you ready to say goodbye? Like,
Yeah.
hey buddy, time to
Yeah.
come into school, say goodbye, but never addressing me as any particular pronoun. Just being like, hey, nice to see you. All right, buddy, come on inside. That's about as far as our conversations have ever gone. I was sitting out in front with my son, and she sits down and she misgenders me.
Oh, wow.
And my oldest goes like, he puts his hand on her, and he's like, hey, she, her. It's my girl dad. She, her. And I'm like, right on, kiddo. And I
Yeah. It's
and
nice
she
to have somebody in your
she turned
corner.
beet red. She was like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, you're the first person to misgender me in 3 years. In 3 years. I haven't been
I bet that
misgendered
made
in
her feel
3 years.
great.
Congratulations, I guess.
Um, well, but like, yeah, it's so interesting. You see some of the people who accidentally misgender it, but then they catch themselves. Like I was at the hospital and this woman said, "Hey, can you come help him?" And then you could see her just die inside slowly as she just kind of looked up at me like,
Yeah,
and
it
kind of
doesn't
looked back
happen
down.
nearly as often as it used to. I mean, I I try to be very understanding, as we all do. At least I would hope. I don't try to be like angry trans lesbian here, where I'm just like every time someone
Yeah.
even looks at me the weird way, I get all up in arms.
Yeah. What hill do
No,
you want to die on? It's like not that one.
exactly. So like if I do get misgendered, like I usually say to myself in my mind, chances of me running into this random person ever again is slim to nothing. So it's not worth my
Yeah.
time. So just
Exactly.
go home, and it almost never happens, but it does happen. And if it's happening between like let's say I'm at a counter at the store and some guy's not looking up and he's just hearing my voice, which is a little on the deeper side, he might address me as male pronouns based
Yeah.
on my voice. Because every time that does happen, it's always someone's not paying attention. They look up and they go like, "Oh, sorry, ma'am." They always correct
Yeah.
themselves because they're not looking at me. Uh, I I have a post that I'm going to be making actually on Instagram about like I'm going to be in a like a very skimpy bra and like a thong, and the quote will say something along the lines of like, honestly, how can you misgender this?
Yeah. Do you when you were talking about your voice, I know with me, whenever I go up to people I haven't met, sometimes I'm just like, "Oh, hi. Yeah. My name's Danielle." And do you ever like when you're meeting somebody new, do you alter the way that you sound at all? Or I mean, could you like your voice sounds very feminine. Like I would
Yeah, this is my consistent tone. It is
yeah.
not the way I used to talk. This is practiced. Um, so that's why I can maintain a level of consistency
Yeah.
with this tone. But this isn't how I used to talk at all. No. In fact, I would rate my old voice as like a baritone, which is one semitone lower than this. So that would be more like way down here, more like that. So
Yeah.
if I do it, I can get down there. So this is how I used to talk, and it's very easy for me to slip in and out. Because vocal training as a singer, I can just bring it right back up there if I want to.
That is fucking night and day. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up that I can go from this to this very very easily. In fact, I used to have a friend that I talked to on Instagram. She's taking kind of a backseat that like she was having some issues with her health, but they were self-induced health issues. So I'm like, hey, if you don't shape up, I know you hate my dead voice. I will talk in my dead voice
Oh wow, yeah.
on our live right now if you don't shape up.
A
And she's like,
hell of a
all right,
threat.
all
I
right, all
love it.
right. And sure enough,
Yeah.
we get on another video. Like she's already live, and I join her live, and she's like, I did it again. And then like I'm just like, I warned you. She's like, you're not gonna do it, are you? Yes. And she was like, no, please don't. I'm like, I warned you. Entire chat with her talking in my dead voice. And she's like,
Wow.
please stop talking like that. I was like, please stop hurting yourself.
Yeah. That's
I also
amazing.
told her I would send her a naked boob pic if she spent 3 months um, off the wagon.
Oh,
And yeah, and I made her give me weekly updates.
yeah.
And she
And it's
swore she didn't do anything. She swore she didn't do anything. 3 weeks comes. About a
And
month later, she was back at it
yeah.
again.
I mean, your motivations are super
I
cool.
was gonna
Or
say, Danny, Bree, why does that sound like our motivation tactics?
because it is.
I may or may not have sent some nice pictures today.
You know, I was dating a girl who was an exhibitionist not all that long ago. And I'm like, so you're trans and you're an exhibitionist. Oh boy. So like that's gonna yeah, somebody's gonna have some tales to tell if they ever see you like streaking around the neighborhood. They're gonna be like, oh, I saw this gorgeous girl running like the Dickens and totally naked. Swear she had a penis.
So,
Another
like,
meaning to Dickens.
like,
Dickens.
Dick
Yeah.
out.
like, yo, so
So we made it a habit anytime I was over her house, her apartment window faced like a walking trail that was used by primarily by college students. That like we made it a point that every morning we would open her shutters, and because of the glare of the sun coming in, you'd have to be like less than 20 feet away from the window in order to see anything. We would sit
Yeah.
there and like eat our breakfast totally naked in
There
the
we go.
window just to see if anybody noticed. And we would have people walking within 5 feet of us, and we'd be like, they don't see us today.
I love
Because
it.
the glare, if they can't unless they like are looking, they are will see it. It's very like we did the test where I went outside. It was like, can I actually see you on a
Oh
bright
yeah.
summer day if you're like sitting in the window and I'm sitting at that bench? Yeah, if I look directly at the window, I can see it with just through the glare.
Yeah, the reflection of that, all the outside light is just so it
But like, yeah, if
uh
she's sitting there waving to me, I'm like, there's a naked chick in the window.
Hilarious.
um
I used to
what
do the same shit at my last apartment that I just left because the sidewalk was raised and I had 3 windows and I was like looking at AT&T, right? And I would just walk out of the bathroom with a towel on my head and several people saw me and I was into it. I was just like, hey,
so
they're like,
hot.
why does
Yeah.
the woman have a penis?
Yeah, there
so
was just one time I was getting I had taken a shower, I got all my makeup on, I was getting ready to leave, and I had left some article of clothing in her living room, which is where the window is, and we had left the windows open, and it was just early enough in the day where the sun wasn't hitting the windows, so it was like if you saw me, you would see me very clearly. There was no glare, and there was these 2 college dudes sitting at said bench I mentioned earlier, and I'm like walking around the apartment, totally oblivious that the windows, because the window's always open. Because this girl's an exhibitionist, she wants it open. Anyways, I'm like doing my thing, like getting my breakfast, and I go to sit down at the table we always sit at, and I wonder if anybody noticed. They were watching me the whole time, and they were. And by the time I noticed them, they were both going like this. I kid you not. They were
yo,
looking directly at me. They're like, "Yep, we've been watching you the whole time,"
It's
waving
like,
at me,
I
and they're
mean,
just like they're
God,
loving it. So I'm just like, "Woo!"
so
Did you give him one
Letting
of
it
these
all hang
back?
out. And I was not
Hey.
wearing any underwear. Totally
oh
naked.
no. So my house has a design flaw. And I'll get back to that in a second. But last summer I was in the bathroom getting ready for my day. And I was finishing up my makeup. Hair was done, I was finishing up my makeup. Towel wrapped around my waist, but other than that, just nothing. And I hear a knock on the door, and I'm like, yo, like, okay, go see who's at the door. The blinds were broken. That was the design. That was one of the design flaws. The other one, the front door. If you stand at the front door and the bathroom door is open, guess what you're looking at? You're looking right through the living room into the bathroom.
Damn.
So literally the FedEx man's just sitting here watching me get
hey,
ready, completely bare ass naked.
he's like, I had one package for you, but now I have 2.
And the funny thing is, to this day,
Special delivery.
that's still our FedEx driver. So every time he comes over, I'm just sitting here, I'm like, hey, buddy.
Hey, Reggie.
Remember that one time?
Yeah. Well, it's either that or like there have been times I'm at work and we all feel this. I'm sure you all feel this. We have a high follower count. All of us do. So I do get real, like my followers in real life finding me.
Really?
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Wow. I've had that once, but wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, just shy of 41,000 people. You're gonna run into
That's
so
crazy.
so
That's
So
true.
and it yeah.
I haven't had that happen like per se. But like where I've had like randomly would run into people, and it actually, believe it or not, was my old friend with benefits. It started off as a chance meeting, and then after literally like our first hookup, he's like, I think I follow you on Instagram. And sure as fucking shit,
Yeah,
here
yeah.
this man is.
Yeah,
Wow.
I had an incident where I was working at a shop last year. And I'd become pally enough with everybody I worked with and everybody there. Was well, like everybody I worked with was chummy enough with me that they were following me on Instagram, and they knew full well that like what my Instagram's all about, and oftentimes in my underwear. So this guy comes in to get some work done on his bike, and I'm doing my own thing. I'm not paying him any mind. A lot of people come in and out, and I'm like at my station fixing a bike. And he, as far as I know, left. And then my coworker comes over and he's like, "Hey, that guy at the counter, like this isn't the first time, but this guy was really like staring at you. Like, do you
Weird.
know him? Do you like are you friends with him?" And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even see him. I wouldn't even be able to tell you what he looks like. I wasn't paying attention. I was busy fixing this." He's like, "All
Sorry, I
right,
was
I'll
working.
keep an eye out for you." And sure enough, like right after we had that discussion, I'm like, "Well, now that I'm at a stopping point, I'll go use the restroom." Come back, and as I'm making my way towards my station, which is in the front of the store, I'm going through the back of the store, and I haven't gone through the door yet where public would be. And he sees me coming out, and he stops me. He's like, he's back. And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, and maybe he forgot something. He's like, I think he's looking for you. Do you want me to tell him to go away? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, stay
Ooh,
here.
creepy.
I don't think he can see you back here. Stay here, and I'll let you know when he leaves. And I'm not like best friends with this dude, so the fact he's like doing this for me is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So he goes up, and I don't hear any altercation. I don't hear any kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle.
And yeah,
Wow.
kerfuffle. So I'm like, you know what? I want to know what's happening. I'm very curious, but I don't want to go out and make a scene. So there was another way to go around the back and still get to the shop area. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll go that way and like kind of listen in because I'm too far away where I am. But if I go over there, I'll be just out of earshot, and he still won't be able to see me. And the conversation consisted of this. I know her. I follow her on Instagram. I just want to talk to her. I just want to talk to her. They're having a full
Weird.
on argument. I just couldn't hear it because I'm partially deaf, and I was just enough out of earshot that I couldn't hear the altercation. They were having an altercation. It's like, no, you need to leave. Like it's not cool. You can take your bike. Just go, please. And
Wow.
he's like, but I just want to talk to her. I want to get, can I give her my number or something? Here's my number. And he puts his number, like takes one of the manager's business cards, starts writing his number down. Like, okay, sir, okay, you need to go. You just
Yeah.
thank you for your business. Take your bike and go.
Well,
It's like, you guys are assholes, okay? I just wanted to talk to her.
why is
And
it?
like he
Yeah.
he like literally throws his bike in his car, drives off like screeching wheels and everything. And I'm coming out from the back area I was describing earlier. And I'm like, thanks for doing that. They're like, they were just wordless. They were like,
Yeah.
I'm
I
like, I hope that never
yeah.
happens again. I am so sorry. And I took the card and I ripped it up and threw it in the trash. And he never came back. To his credit, he left and never came back. But like, wow.
It is so interesting how some of these people, like I know inside of like my DMs, I'm sure it's all the same for y'all as well. There are like tons of people who assume that just because they gave us a compliment that we're like somehow like betrothed to them, and that like
That happens a lot. I have two different types of DM. I have the direct message for people that I follow, only can message me. So if I follow you, you can message me. But if I don't follow you, you can't message me. So like random chasers can't just send me a direct DM
that's
and it
smart.
goes into my general. There's like a whole blocked list of anybody that follows me and I don't follow back. They can message me all that I want, but I will never see it.
Yeah. I have, yeah, mine goes into like the request, and then I've scrolled to the bottom and there's a hidden, but there are things in there that people are like, hello, beautiful. And then, like a couple of days will pass and they're like, why aren't you responding to me? And it's like,
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
get those.
realize that I
That's what
was
I'm talking about.
owing you.
The requests.
Yeah. Well, and
Get
it's like,
so many of those.
it's so interesting
I
how people just assume that we are these like sex objects for them because we used to
Yeah.
be guys, and now apparently, I think people think the only reason we did this is so we could get more sex.
They
see. Here's the thing,
fetishize
though.
us.
Here's the thing, though. I honest to goodness, would put money if you went to any cis woman's Instagram DMs. They are just like it. It is men
Yeah.
think women are sex objects. That's
Yeah.
what
Yep.
it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I've talked to other people who are influencers or have like a high follower count. It's like, do you get the same level of harassment? I bet you do. And sure enough, if it's a woman, they're like, oh yeah, my requests are just like a million miles long. And I
Yeah.
just don't respond to them. And it's this, they
See,
say the same thing you just said, Danny, which is that they're getting like, hey, how come you didn't respond? And I'm getting straight up dick pics. I don't know
Yeah.
about y'all, but I'm getting straight up
Yeah.
dick pics in my requests. Like
Yeah.
like if I actually looked at my requests, it would probably take me a whole day to just delete every single one of them.
see, I honestly love turning the outlandish things I get into the message requests into literally just like a story chronicle. Like, I don't know why I get a sick humor in that.
I wish I could do that, but I end up feeling like I'm bullying them. Like they
Nah.
Um,
You come into my DMs like that. Like you come in respectful? Nah. We will never have an issue.
Yeah,
But
I
you
don't
come
want to
in
engage, like, because if I engage and I start using it as a means of just like, oh, look at this fool, like, who's to say that that fool won't find me and target me?
yeah. Yeah.
see, I play the game. I play the game of you come at me like that, like you deserve to be
Hmm.
exposed. And honestly, it's not even like a look at this fool. It's a men, if you want to get a woman's attention, trans, cis, I don't care. You want to get a woman's attention, this is not how you do it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we're having a guest on in a couple of days, maybe it's coming up, who she does, I mean, she posts pictures of messages that she gets. I mean, of course she blurs the name
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the name in the picture, but basically then respond, like, has her response to it. And it's yeah, I mean, I wonder if that has like an effect of pissing the people off or embarrassing. I mean, I imagine some people are going to be like inspired, yeah, like you said, inspired to violence at that point and
Yeah,
coming to,
that's I mean, like if you're blurring the name out, the person you're the person you're posting about that's harassing you, if you're blurring it out, only they are going to know what they said. Not
yeah,
like, and if you're like outrightly exposing their name to all who can see it, that's there's a fine line there. As I guess
yeah,
as long as you're blurring the name and nobody knows who this person is that's harassing you, I guess that would lead to less reactionary stuff. I can see how, and it's a lot of fodder for comedy. It is definitely like high up there in the like humiliating, like it's the equivalent of like reading someone's diary, because like you're exposing this.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
and the only one where I exposed their username was because it got so outlandish. It was the last one I posted if you two saw it, but it was so outlandish where it was literally me making a screen recording and scrolling, and it was shit like leave the guy you're with right now because we're meant to be together and you're gonna be mine and we're gonna be together. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, bro, you
no,
are
no girl has
big
ever gone for
crazy.
that. No
Yeah.
girl has ever
No,
gone for that.
you are big crazy. But most of the time, like I get comments like, "You're so beautiful. I'd love to suck your cock," and I'm sitting here. I'm like, and screenshot, edit out the username, and posty.
Yeah.
You'd love to, but you can't.
Yeah, right. Have you all run into any of the people that have what they call a wall of shame? Like where you put your stories that you can I forget the section, but it's like right under your info, but they'll have that little button, you click on it, and it's just a ton of screenshots of DMs, and they haven't blurred out anything. It's just yeah. And there's I found one
I
that
could
had
create
probably
a whole other
30.
page. I could make a whole other Instagram that's nothing but like follower requests that go a little too far. Like
Mhm.
you know what I was joking with a friend of mine that like I should take all the dick pics and be like, compare them. Just like, oh, look at this
Make your
poor
own
little,
hot or not.
look at this poor
Just
unfortunate soul, like stuff like that. Like, oh my God, is that Gonzo's nose? No, it's a dick.
So I now have Penelope's content idea for March Madness. We're gonna have a
We're
bracket
gonna do
of
brackets of penis sizes.
yes,
Oh.
yes.
That would be hilarious. We should do that together. We should have we should be like it's an art gallery showing like, ooh, this fine piece of work right here was presented me by like Jerry 5795438. And judging by the length and the girth of it, could I fit that in my throat? I don't know. Could you?
This
I
person needs to
am
contact a
so
doctor.
down for this idea. Let's ball. Come March, we doing it.
Yeah.
I
And then
might
we
get
have
my
to- we have
Instagram
to-
account banned in the process.
Yeah.
But I'm down.
This right here looks like a herpy, right?
It's like you see the fine way that the curls and the pubes are. No, thank you.
This man conditions his pubes.
We can really tell that he shampoos. And by that,
He straightened them. Like that's a different level of commitment.
Jerry Curl.
yes, he let that soul glow.
His name is Jerry. That makes it even better.
You see, Gary here has a slight crook to the end of his penis. He probably got it bent in high school from being kicked in the nards.
Hey, that arch though sometime be hitting the right spot.
Oh, Jesus.
I would describe my penis as being gonzo nose shaped.
Oh my God. I'm having flashbacks to the break.
As awesome as that, and I did have a question that I think we're almost at an even an hour, but I did have I didn't want to switch it away too quickly from Instagram, but I did have a question that has been itching for about
more pertaining to girl dadness.
Yeah, and this is something that somebody else had mentioned a couple of episodes ago, and they said when I finished transitioning, it was sort of like this thing that that there was a finish line, and I wanted to know, you said you started in 2017. Do you consider yourself done transitioning, and do you believe there is a done? And
There,
if
as far
so,
as I'm concerned, it's person to person basis. So like there are some trans women that I know, and I was having this discussion the other night with a friend of mine about how I call her every once in a while out of the blue, or she'll call me every once in a while out of the blue, just to check up on each other. And I remember a couple months ago, I was talking to her. She's like, "I'm done calling myself trans." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, like my kids have spent the last 7 years. I'm the only mom they've had. My ex-wife is in a mental institution, so she has no affiliation with the kids. So anybody that sees me, sees my kids, has never known me as anything other than woman, she,
yeah.
her, mom, teacher. She's also
Oh,
a teacher. So she's like, I'm done. Like, I don't like, I'm proud of the journey I've had, but like, I want to live safely and I want my kids to be safe. And I've thought a lot about this. Like, I don't know when it started and stopped being trans, but woman is all I ever want to be now. So
yeah,
I don't want to be called trans anymore. I'm done with that. And that's her way of saying, like, I'm done transitioning, like, publicly. Anything else she does from this point on, whatever surgery she has, is as a woman, not as a trans woman, as just woman.
wow,
And I was like, all right, I respect that. I
yeah,
totally respect that because she and I are coming from the same area. We both have kids. We have to think about the context of the world around us and how we want to be perceived and not targeted. And so, as a methodology of her to protect herself and her kids, she's like, I've been here. No one's ever misgendered me because, she's lucky enough to have that floating letter P above her head and her, everything, her voice, her body, everything about her, you would never know she's trans. So she's like, you know what? Since they don't know, they're never going to know, and because I don't want them to know, but also like, why should they know? That that
yeah,
that journey is over now. I don't have to think about that journey because there is no journey to make anymore.
yeah,
And I respect the hell out of that. And but like for me, like no matter how far along I go, I can't imagine feeling the same way. There's a certain amount of pride I have in having the trans tag in front of the woman
yeah,
because I'm very proud of that. And as much as, like I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of like painting targets on myself. Um, like let's say, I'm out in a group of people and I feel unsafe. There's no reason for me to be holding up a sign. Like
yeah.
if I'm like let's say my car breaks down in the middle of nowhere and like there's a bunch of hillbillies that are willing to help me by towing my car, I'm not gonna be like, oh hey hillbillies, I'm trans.
Hey, by
Like
the way,
by the way,
we
I have a
all have
penis.
penises.
Like you kill me now because I know you want to. No,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna shout it out loud in that scenario. But if I like, and I wish it wasn't that way. I wish I could just be like, trans mom or trans
yeah,
person, like emblazoned on every shirt I wear. I wish my world were safe enough to do that. It is not as p word as I am,
yeah.
as lucky and fortunate as I have progressed to a point where I can use that banner, the assing with the letter P in front of it. I
Mhm.
hate that word. That's why I'm not using it. Because it implies so much. We can get into that if you wish. Um, I'm very fortunate. I never go a day without being so grateful of like the medications I've been on, the surgeries I've had, the progress I've made, the strength it took me to get from there to where I am now. I'm very proud of those things. But like I have to think about my safety by way of my kids' safety. Anything that happens to me, who gives a fuck? I don't care if I die tomorrow. I don't care if I die right now. I've made my peace with death years ago. My care, my primary thing is to make sure I'm safe so that my kids are safe. And
Yeah,
if it means having to hide the trans part of the trans woman part in certain scenarios, Unfortunately, in this shitty world, I have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only reason I ask is because I've just been thinking about what does being done even mean anymore. And I guess the thing that I was targeting was right now, obviously, as people have been, anybody who's been following, I've been sort of gangbusters going through surgeries, like 3 in the last 31 days. Um,
Yay.
and it's like there's always another thing that I was gonna do. Like I need to work on my voice more. So once there's all these goalposts that I keep pushing further and further down, and I keep saying as soon as my goals become not 90% focused on transitioning is, I guess, quote unquote, for me, that would be what's done. But some people are just like, it's just a lifelong thing for the next,
Yeah.
for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
transitioning.
So, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, um, there is some medical issues I personally have to go through. Ones in which I was not planning to go through. My FFS was botched. I'm sure you've seen the picture. My surgeon really messed me up pretty bad. So I can't just sit here and rest on my laurels of that. I have to see a doctor to see what I can do about it because it's a health hazard. So as far as my personal transition is concerned, I was supposed to be done if we're
Yeah.
going there. If we're going there, I was supposed to be done. But
Yeah.
due to a mishap with my doctor, kind of really good at nose jobs, really good at fat grafts, but shitty as fuck at doing brow shaving.
Yeah.
Left me with a permanent scar that unless I get it taken care of will be there for the rest of my life. And it's a big one. I can't just like I hide it very well because I'm blessed with, like I said, everything I have that I've earned as a trans woman. I'm very blessed with. This giant hair covers up a strap about that thick of alopecia from surgery.
Wow. And
So I
wow.
shared the pictures on Instagram. You can go look them up. Um, about how it's been now it's been just barely over 2 years, 1 year since I've had my FFS. My FFS was on October 14th of last year. It was a very harrowing, awful experience. My breast augmentation, I was like ready to take on the world. I had a very good surgeon, and he followed up with me, and he was amazing. I will recommend him. He's Dr. Yaramir Slama. He's amazing. So if you need bottom surgery or if you need top surgery, he's your guy. Go see him. But my facial surgeon fucked me up bad, real
Yeah.
bad, and you don't edit that out.
Yeah.
Fucked
No,
me
yeah.
up. So
What
so I had to deal with that, crying every night, chunks of hair falling out of my head, um, big giant scar. I was supposed to be done with my transition. I don't want to go into surgery again ever.
yeah.
I don't want bottom surgery. I want to be just done with this
Yeah.
shit.
Well,
And so that was what I said to her as I'm like fading into oblivion to get the surgery. I'm like, I want this to be it. I don't want to
yeah.
be on the slab anymore. I don't even want to be here now. I
Yeah.
just want this over with. And she said, okay. And
Um,
so now I have to go in for a revision, and I have a consultation in April. That's how backlogged they are.
wow. That's
So once this is done and fixed, done. Don't want to do
yeah.
anymore. Done.
When you were 'cause I know me personally, I did not do a lot of research initially on FFS doctors. I just sort of went with the first ones that were able to see me, and I was actually about to go with somebody who I found out later was a butcher. um what kind of advice would you give to people, like what sorts of things would you say to research for
No,
somebody
you
who's
you
just
did.
looking?
I would say you did all the right things. I would say exactly what you just said. Is that like go into it? Don't just take the first doctor that comes your way. I mean, in my situation, because I'm low income, and I live in Massachusetts, I won't say where. Massachusetts, if you're on Mass Health and you go through 2 years of waiting list, you can then go get whatever surgeries you want as a trans person.
Yeah.
So I had to wait 2 years to get my top surgery, but I knew that in advance that I wasn't sure if I wanted it. I was pretty sure, but I said to myself, if I want this, I better apply now, because when the clock rolls 2 years from now, and if I decide I don't want it, well, at least I applied for it, and I did the whole waiting list thing.
Yeah.
And if I don't want it, I just say no, and then they move on to the next patient.
Yeah.
Turns out I was like ready, and I got it.
Yeah.
But I had, and then for FFS, before I even got my top surgery, I had already applied for FFS. So that's why I got it last year, because I had already applied for it in the 2-year waiting period.
Yeah.
It's fully covered. This was free. This
Wow.
was free. Didn't pay a cent for it. Nothing. Very lucky.
Yeah.
But when it came to top surgery, they gave me a few options to go with, because there was a lot more of that available than there was FFS at the time. So I had a list, and I literally went through the list. I said to myself, I'm not in a big hurry. They've granted me the allowance to do this to my body for free. And so I did the research, and I was able to pick the best of the best, and he happened to be available. I got lucky. Second time around with the FFS, I was given only 3 options. The first 2 were total quacks. Total quacks. Like, I called the office, and it was sounded like an advertisement. And he's like, "You come on in and we'll do a consultation." I sat there with him, and he has fake tan. He was made out of plastic. And it turns out he was gaming the system to get people in there for the consultation to then charge them money.
Yeah.
And I caught on to his game. So I was like, nope, can't do him. And then the other person said oh, it would be 2 years. I'm like, but I just got approved. And usually that starts the ball rolling. So this goes a little faster. And he's like, no, I'm overbooked. It's just me. I do take your insurance, but I'm private practice. So I'm like, wait 2 years or get it done now by this one random surgeon that just entered the field. Brand new, fresh off the cutting room floor, literally, of being she only did here.
Yeah, like soft tissue.
Ever. She did soft tissue stuff, and then she got her certifications, we'll say, to do what's called craniomaxillofacial surgery, which is this part.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that. It just says she's board certified. She's a teacher at the hospital. She's had all
terrifying.
these accolades. And I'm like, wow, the last person is actually the most qualified. What are the odds? I didn't know that she was fresh from the cutting room floor. They didn't say that on the hospital's website. It was in a hospital too.
Yeah.
So I figured I'm going to get the best care. Little did I know, I did do the research, but I ended up with someone who is basically great at this, but a rookie from here up.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what somebody alerted me to, that for those listening who are thinking about FFS, one of the things that I didn't even think about was that there is a difference. Yeah, like you're saying, between the hard bone stuff of the brow and everything, and the soft tissue, your cheeks, your nose, your I guess all the other trach shaving and everything. Whereas and you need to find out what type of brow reduction. The guy that I was going to go with that turned out to be a butcher was really good at soft tissue, but he didn't want to learn the type 3 cranial reduction, brow reduction, whatever. That's what I would need. So he would have completely botched my face. But people out there, find out what type of brow reduction, if you're going to get a brow reduction, which I definitely need, like a Neanderthal, and find out if your doctor does it. I think that the one right now is called type 3 brow reduction is what I'm gonna need. But yeah, do research on what you're gonna need, as opposed to just who's available and who says they can do it, because everybody will say they can do it.
Yeah. And the surgeon also, she gave me a 3-page packet post surgery that went over post care, like what to do, like how to like dress the wound and stuff like that. And like I did everything literally by that book, and it actually made it worse.
Wow.
So and then uh I called for an emergency consult with her. Um it had been less than a month, and like I said, I had just gotten my bandage off, and I went home like a few days after I got my bandage off, and I'm sitting there like having this massive migraine. I don't get migraines. Why do I have a migraine? Right in the spot of the sore. And like it felt like somebody took a blowtorch to my head. And I was like, it hurts, it burns. So I called my friend Juliana. She came racing over here and she's like, let me help you tend to your wound. She works for a surgical office, so she knows a thing or two about this. And she took care of me up until I went home. So, of course, I'm going to call her. She's also had FFS, so she knows what, and her partners had FFS. She's surrounded by people who've had FFS. So
Yeah.
she kind of knows a thing or two about it. Most experienced person I know. She came over to my house. First thing she said when she saw it, she said, "This looks bad. This looks really bad. It looks infected." And so I sent an email right there on the spot as I'm sitting on the floor, right there behind me, right in front of my bed. I was sitting on the floor because my head was spinning so much I couldn't even stand up. I sent an email to my doctor and I went to stand up and I passed out. And I woke up on the floor, and like maybe a minute or two later, my friend Juliana's like, it's like, wow, you got really dizzy there. And she's like holding me and she's like, you're shivering, you feel cold to the touch. She's like, you're having and feels like to me like you're having anesthesia sickness, which is a real thing. And she's like, the only difference with anesthesia sickness is like if you pass out, most people go in a coma. And she's like, so I don't think you have that. So she's like, well, if you're feeling really awful, I will call an ambulance for you. And I'm still on the floor right over there, right in that very spot. And I was like, it just hurts so bad. I went to touch my hair, and a clump of my hair came off of my hand, covered in blood, caked in blood. And and I just started bawling, and I curled up in a ball, and I was like, it's like, why is this happening to me? And why is this happening to me? I just want to die. This is awful. I just want to die. I don't want anybody to see me like this. This is awful. And she stayed with me for the night, and I did not. When neither one of us slept, I was on my floor, my hardwood floor, crying all night. Like I didn't even want to get up to go pee. I was in so much mental strain, and you can't even imagine. And so
yeah,
I was able to get a consult with her within a week. And she was like, "Oh, this doesn't look too bad. It's just like
what the sorry.
use I can't I think it was like silicone roller or whatever. Use this, and you should see the swelling go down." And I'm like, "Are you sure? This doesn't seem like it's enough."
I'm surprised
Like
she didn't like give you crystals. Like, hey, hold the crystal near it, and it'll fix
and
it.
she was like, "This is what I recommend." So I took it home. Sorry, took it with me. Went downstairs. Went to the front desk and I said, "Do you have an on-site dermatologist that I can speak to?" They're like, "No, you have to make an appointment." And I was like, "Can I make one through you?" And the woman at the counter was like, "Yes, you can make one through here. We prefer you to do it for the gateway, but you seem like you need some help." And she was very sweet. And she's like, "What's your name?" Blah, blah, blah. Went through the process, made the appointment. She's like, "All right, they'll see you in January. 3 months.
Jeez.
3 months." I'm like, I'll
That's-
take it. I'll take it because I'm desperate. I'll take it.
God.
And my friend Ariella was there. She was giving me a ride. She's like, "What happened?" I was like, "She just gave me this stuff," and she got upset. Like you could have sworn you saw fire shoot out of her eyes. She's like, what? She just give you like some ointment? Like,
Yeah. And it's like, cool,
did
see you in
she
3 months.
look at it? Did she like look at? She kept asking me, did she even look at it? I was like, yeah, she looked at it. This is what she told me to use. And she said, take ibuprofen if I have a headache. And she's like,
All
no,
the
this
snake
isn't
oil.
right. This isn't right. So all of my friends that did my like sat with me during post care called dermatologists and got me bumped to 2 months. But that's as best as I could do. By the time I saw the dermatologist, the postulating boils that were on my head, literally, that's not exaggerating, boils on my head, they had somewhat healed, some were still pus filled boils. So I went to see the dermatologist finally, and I show her. She was like, are you a victim of a fire? This looks like a 3rd-degree burn. 3rd degree means like
But
the most severe.
just a strip though. Yeah.
Like, you know, those things you put in your hair to keep your hair out of your face?
Yeah.
That size all the way across.
But yeah,
Uh,
like, she thought you were just are you a burn
she
victim
thought
in
I was a
just this
burn
one
victim.
spot? It's like just this little, and it's like
She's
no.
like, I didn't give her, though I purposefully didn't give her any context. So I was like,
Oh,
I'm severely scarred. I need you to look at this
yeah.
and tell me what you can do if you can help at all. She's like, there's no follicle left. This looks like 3rd-degree burn. Like, did you get? Are you a victim of fire? Were you a victim of violence? Should I report this to someone? I was like, no. You've just confirmed to me that I had a botched surgery, and then I explained to her that I went in for FFS, and that my friend had seen the scar and was like, "Why is she using sutures? Whenever you get FFS, you're supposed to use staples." Everyone I've ever met, even 30 years ago, was getting staples.
Yeah.
Why did they use sutures? This seems odd. This seems like haphazard, unprofessional. Like, she's like, your nose is starting to look great, your cheeks and your lips look great, but this looks really bad. Maybe she just wasn't experienced and she's too embarrassed to tell you. And
Yeah.
so not only, and she said, I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to consult with the surgeon's office I work with and have them look at it. And she got me rushed in there. So the next week after I saw the dermatologist, I had the dermatologist take pictures and put it on file. I had pictures of my own from when I first started seeing the infection. So I have all these documentations. And I finally go to see a professional surgeon that does facial surgery. And he's one of the best in the world for facial surgery. And he's right in my neck of the woods, about an hour away from me. And my friend works for him. So I got bumped. Just free consultation, nothing else. Just look at it and tell me what you see. And he looked at it. He's like, this is the worst technique I've ever seen. Like, did you have like a college student do this? This is awful. He's like, I'm not going to put that on record because I don't want to get sued, but like, you should maybe consider malpractice. This is the
Yeah. I was
worst
gonna say.
technique I've ever seen. I'm like, I don't have any money to pursue this in a court of law. I just need you to reassure me that she did something wrong because she thinks she did something right. He's like, I'm not going to put it in writing, but this is the worst technique I've ever seen. And I advise you never go back to her or anything.
Yeah. I'm
Here I
is
am
there
a year
any
later.
is there any, like, in terms of that technique, like, I guess what would you recommend somebody like do to avoid that kind of thing? Like, how could you tell that the doctor was going to do things like suture you up as opposed to using staples? Are those questions you can ask? Oh wow. Well, yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. I did
You would never know.
yeah.
But
I,
what advice? Exactly what you're doing. Do not rush into it. I didn't rush into it. I'm not saying I did. I had no choice but to take my time. I had to wait 2 years to get approved. And then once I was approved, I went through the steps as I described earlier. Um, take your time, take a deep breath, learn to love what you have, live in that body for a moment. Do your research, make sure you're picking the right person. Don't just do it for budget, don't just do it because it's covered. take a deep breath. If you think this is the right surgeon and you've met with them and they've walked through you in detail what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, make sure you ask every question you can ask. Like,
Yeah.
what will the scar look like? What kind of techniques do you use? How long have you been a surgeon? Are you board certified? If
Yeah.
there's a question you can ask it. Ask.
And I'm
Yeah.
gonna piggyback off. Like when I got my breast augmentation, I got that done through Starbucks Insurance. You know, the doctors that I went with, like not many people in this neck of the woods take insurance for what is normally considered a very cosmetic plastic surgery. And so like my first person that was like, yeah, I'll take you was a doctor at the University of Louisville. And I sat down in his office for a consultation, and let me tell you from the onset, I was like, this dude does not give a flying fuck about me. Like this dude, like we're not vibing. Like he does not care about me. I am not a priority. I'm literally just a number. I'm a paycheck. And so I walked out of the office and I was like, I called my person over at Starbucks and I was like, yeah, that's a no-go. And she ended up finding me another guy at Vanderbilt, and he was absolutely amazing. And sitting down, he's like, this is my work. These are my befores, these are my afters. Like, this is what I've done. You want to talk to people I've worked with before? Here's some references. And I even checked him out on the Reddit sphere. If you look on Reddit, there literally is a subreddit for transgender surgeries. You can vet your doctors out on there. I've done it with any surgeon I've even considered.
That's a really good call. Right
Yeah. And like it's literally just vetting out, seeing their work, talking to people who have been clients of theirs. Because when it comes to bottom surgery, I almost did the same thing. And why did I do it? Because that doctor does not require laser hair removal. She'll just scrape the follicles out while she's in there. But guess what? If you look at her before and afters on Reddit, it is literally the things that will give you nightmares. Like she is an absolute butcher. And, you know, like laser hair removal sucks. Electrolysis sucks, especially down there. But I would go through that pain 1,000 times over to be happy with the result than to live with the result that I just am absolutely mortified with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been getting laser down there. And it doesn't tickle. It's like someone took an elastic band and just flicked you like a whole
literally
bunch of
like I've done it on my face and I'm working on it down there. My face, like I will sit here, I will have a conversation, we'll be bright and cheery. Down there, I'm literally my coping mechanism, and don't ask me why, is I'm always wearing a tank top like this. That's just how I am. I loop my thumbs in here and I'm literally just squeezing my boobs like a stress ball. Like that's how I get through this.
Mine is that I bring it sounds silly. I bring my drumsticks because it gives me something to grip.
That's me and my boobs. It's something to grip.
The drumsticks. I just grab. I'll either if one rolls away or something, I'll grab both of them and I just do this.
What size is that?
This is a 5A.
Nice.
This is a 5A American Classic. So
yeah,
I won't get into it.
Hell yeah. No, I love 5As are awesome. I love it. I used to use 7As, but I break them too easily. Oh yeah, nice. Oh, I love those dry heads. It's got little holes in it that make it dry.
Yeah, I like the dry ones because I started marching band, but we'll get to that some other time.
Yeah.
But yeah, just be very like anybody listening to it. All of these are great tips. Do your research. Make sure you're like following them down the rabbit hole. Just go nuts because like it's if it's your money, it's your fucking money. Spend it right. If you're lucky enough, like I was, to get insurance to cover your surgeries, just because it's covered doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah.
That if I could cap everything I said, and like if we were to edit out that long story of the nightmare of my surgery, and you just left it at that. That's what it should be. Just because it's covered doesn't mean you should do it.
Well, yeah,
And even if it's covered, it might be covered for you, but guess what? They still getting paid for that. Like me, myself,
they're gonna get
me
money
right
no
here-
matter what.
Right. Like mine were covered at 100% too. Thank you, Starbucks. I was one of the lucky ones.
Thanks,
But guess
Capital
what?
One.
The surgeon and the hospital that did this operation literally made out with $40,000. That's right. They nickel and dimed my insurance company and walked away with $40,000 for this surgery. So if you're going to charge somebody $40,000, it better look damn good.
Yeah.
And thank you to Vanderbilt University.
Well, and one of the things that I guess my advice to people who are looking is find people who, if people are willing to show their before and afters on their profiles, some people are, find somebody who has the same facial structure as you, because I saw pictures of the butcher. I saw people who looked amazing from his work, and you see their befores, and it's like, wow, yeah, they didn't have a prominent brow bone. They didn't have they already had a sharp jaw. Their brow bone was this face right here was very flat already, and they looked amazing afterwards. But then you see the people who have facial structures like me that he does, and it's like you just basically made the brow look even more prominent.
I guess that's a good thing to bring up, because when I went for my top surgery, I should have known, because my top surgery was so thorough. Dr. Slama, I met with him. He sat in a chair. He sat across from me, and he gently walked me through everything. Like, read the pamphlets with me right next to me. Brought out the silicones to like lay them out, and he's like, "Put these in your bra and see how that feels." I think I was wearing this dress. I don't remember. So I put them in there, and I'm like, we made our decision what size. He's like, even though I could easily go from here and just like say like, all right, we know what we want. Let's just, the next time we meet is going to be surgery. He's like, I want to meet with you one more time just to make absolutely sure. Definitely want to do this and make sure that we've locked down our size. Might only take 5 minutes, but it'll be worth it, because I want to be absolutely certain you're ready. It's like, take your time and read as much as you can. If you have water, he said this is true. He said, I would recommend going to Dollar Tree, go get some water balloons, go to your measuring cup at home and measure about how much, like cc's, because it's the same thing as mLs. Put that water in a water balloon, put it in your bra, because it's going to be very similar algorithm to how the breasts are going to feel once they're in your body. And it'll allow you to get used to the feeling of having bigger breasts. I'm like, that sounds really silly, but I'm actually going to do that. And that's exactly what I did. Went out to Dollar Tree, did the water balloon. I was like, wow, he's right. Like, it's something like a little kid would do just to see what it would feel like to have boobs. But it's pretty good algorithm for like the weight and the feel of having extra tissue there. Because then once I had my breast implants after a while, I'm just like, oh God, yeah. I remember having the water balloons in there, and it feels exactly like that. That's freaky. Yeah. It's like, it's so funny that he recommended that, and it actually is an accurate algorithm.
Yeah.
I love that. Hey, Danny.
What's up?
Is it time for the famous question?
Yes.
The famous question.
Bree, you want to do it? Go.
Will you sell your soul to us?
Yeah. Ah, damn it. You've watched them. Oh, wait. Wait, Bree, are you talking?
Yes. So it has come to that point in the show where we ask the famous question of, and it can be a rough one, depending on if your noodle's turned on or not.
Your noodle.
Your
noodle.
What would you say is your transition theme song?
I never really thought of that.
The noodle is not on.
The noodle. We're canoodling your noodle.
I do have one, and it's very recent, and I think only because it's very recent that I have it. It's Ray LaMontagne's "Be Here Now."
Wow.
I haven't heard that one. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Because
That's
the
new
reason
list.
why is that I'm all about my philosophy since coming out is about being present, just being here. The past is the past. The future is unwritten. Be here now.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
if you are like me and you're sitting here like thinking I've never heard that song, go to Spotify, check it out. This episode of Girl Dad Girls brought to you by Spotify. Just kidding. Spotify, we
And the
love you.
cease and desist orders come in. That is awesome. I usually put like or whoever does our production, definitely not me, we'll usually put a giant link somewhere. I've learned that my camera is backwards, so I think we'll be down there. But or it'll be over there. I can't remember how my camera does it. But anyways, well, Penelope, this has been awesome. I super appreciate, I mean, we all super appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories. And it's really been we talk on lives, but it's things like this that really get to know somebody. And just thank you again for coming on. So
No problem. I love my
Oh.
kids, and that's why I'm here.
Oh, and real quick, people who are not familiar with you, how do people find you on the internet? What are your handles, your websites, anything you want to share that we're going to put on the
Sure.
big.
It's Penelope _ Alizarin on Instagram. So at Penelope _ Alizarin. That's the only site I really use to like advertise like things that are trans related.
And that has your like link tree, I guess. Maybe I assume everybody has a link tree.
Yeah, you can go to Penelope Alizarin if you want to Venmo me some money.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's
I'll,
Penelope Alizarin.
I will put that
on
in.
Venmo.
I will put that in the video. I mean, our
In the
production
show
crew will put that in the
notes.
video.
I'm unemployed. Send me your money.
Oh,
I
hey,
love
me too.
Yeah, I will put a link to that in the video. Well, awesome. Well, we are going to end the regular session and we're going to jump to after hours. So if you're not an after hour subscriber, check out our patreon.com/girldadgirls, I believe. If not, I'm going to put a link to it in the in the show notes. And so for Girl Dad Girls, I am that QT Danny B. We have Ravishing Rachel, Bree Zane Marie, and thank you once again to our lovely guest Penelope. And we will see everybody on after hours when you all become subscribers, because you have to do that now. Otherwise, why be here? Why be here? All right, bye everybody.
This has been a production of Girl Dad Girls Podcast. Check out new episodes every Thursday. If you are interested in knowing more, please email info@girldadgirls.com or find us on Instagram @girldadgirls. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.